This morning, Mecklenburg County Sheriff Garry McFadden is in the Live Impact studio for a conversation that really comes at a critical time for our community. Just last night, we reported that some of the concerns now 1 week into Iryna's law, there's an 18% jump in jail population, strained resources, a detention center struggling to keep up, and add to that the conclusion of Operation Charlotte's Web. We have the ongoing federal immigration operation enforcement and the recent tragic loss of one of his officers. Sheriff McFadden joining us here this morning. He's been candid about some of these challenges, and today we're going to dig right into it. Sheriff, thank you for making the time.
Thank you all for having me.
It has been 1 week since Iryna's law took effect. Last night, again, we reported the 18% increase in jail population compared to around this time last year. What's happening inside the facility right now?
Well, we're preparing for the holiday season. Most people know that the numbers do go up during the holiday season, but they also go up just because there's a lot of mental stress. And what we mean, people are stressed out. Wives and husbands are filing for evictions and divorce and everything else, and that causes a lot of controversial issues in the home. Domestic violence goes up. Believe it or not, December 1st, the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office evicted 198 people from their homes. And so all of that comes into contrast to what happens inside a detention center. And all these people come in. And so when the people do come in, there are poverty-stricken, homeless, and with a lot of anxiety. So a lot of stress goes inside the detention center when people are arrested. And we don't think about that. We just think about the violent criminals, which also brings another avenue to us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, there are so many things tied to this, right? Mental health, last Friday's stabbing, the second in less than 4 months since Iryna Zarutska lost her life. So when we talk about mental health, let's just go there for a minute, because your mental health director did note that some residents won't engage with treatment, even though that is clearly something they need and something that is out there. It is a resource, isn't it?
It is. You have to say that, a lot of the regular person, will a husband talk about what he went through as a child? No. Well, a wife would talk to the husband about what she went through as a child. And so they're not open for those conversations. So when they're coming into the detention center in the middle of a crisis, because the crisis is their criminal charges, then you want to talk to them about their mental state. They may be reluctant to do that, and then all of a sudden they get inside the pod or the housing unit, and they become immersed inside to that world, and then they won't talk about their mental status. So it's very hard to make people open up and let's talk about their mental capacity and their mental problems. So that is a battle in itself, but the ones that we do take care of, we're happy to take care of them.
Overcrowding an issue, and you said that or your major did say that it reduces efficiencies, raises the risks of incidents. What kind of danger are we talking to staff, to residents in the community?
Well, I think people do not realize what we have to work with each and every day. There's probably 1,600 people inside a detention center at this time today. Think about this. So that is 1,600 people who have been charged with violent crimes and behaviors. So 1,600 people being housed in one building. That is like taking the Marriott downtown and put everybody in who's homeless. And then how do you combat that? So inside our detention center, there are 1,600 people that have allegedly committed a crime, and we have to deal with them. And most of those are violent criminals, and so, or alleged violent criminals. And so we have to tackle that mentally. So our staff will be mentally stressed because now we're going to be inundated with all the people that are not released because of the new law 307, that we're now going to house them and take on that aspect of mental health. So when you're talking about danger, imagine that.
Let's talk about House Bill 307. You've been quite vocal about it. And what do you believe what are the challenges that House Bill 307? Let's start there. I know you've said it before, but just to get people caught up.
The main challenges is funding. Imagine creating something that you have to work with, or you are mandated to do, and they created this bill with no funding. When we say resources, resources is a very loose terminology that most people use. But what about having staff, having the resources to hire more staff to deal with the people with the mental challenges? My staff is probably better than most of the staffs across the state, and here's why. In 2019, we created the first behavioral health pod inside a detention center in the state of North Carolina in 2019. In 2020, we again created another pod just for women. So we had a pod for men and we had a pod for women. 2022, we created what they call the RISE program, restoring individually, safely, and effectively back to society. And what does that mean? People are inside our detention center are waiting to go to trial, but what they call incapable to proceed, ITP, incapable to proceed. What does that mean? That they cannot assist their lawyer in their trials. So we're restoring these individuals back. That was in 2022. Fast forward, 2025, the state of North Carolina, Department of Human Health and Resources, came to us and says, Sheriff McFadden, since you have done so well, can you help us a little bit more? So we divided the state into three parts. I am what they call the Western District. So 36 other sheriff's offices can send people to me, the Mecklenburg County Detention Center, to be treated for mental health issues. 36 other counties. There's only 100 counties in North Carolina. On my way to this interview today, I spoke to my legal staff. Another county outside of that 36 would like for me to be able to receive their people from their detention center. So now that burden is on us, and think about this. That is being paid for, but the additional people are not.
The Post-Release Resource Center, is that what we're talking about?
No, the Post-Release Center is a whole different animal that we have. The Post-Release Center is for people who are re-entering society and needing help that they normally do not get. So when we found that gap in our system, we created the Post-Release Center, and that's helpful. The RISE program is separate from that.
Okay, and the RISE program is funded?
The RISE program is funded by the state of North Carolina, yes.
All right, so when we talk about resources and lack of resources, what does that mean to you? What do you need? What is the dollar amount?
Dollar amount I couldn't tell you, but staffing, I would say staffing, and we look at housing people at $198 a day. So you think about that. On top of that, and fast forward and to kind of mix this up a little, so imagine the immigration issue that we're talking about. We now, because of House Bill 318, we now have to, again, hold people 48 hours longer than they were supposed to be. What do we mean by that? After they have met all the conditions of their release, now we hold them an additional 48 hours for ICE to come and pick them up. That additional 48 hours is costing the taxpayers of Mecklenburg County $398 per stay. That is not funded. Another House bill that was mandated by the lawmakers in Raleigh, that is not funded.
When it comes to House Bill 318, you turn them over, like you said, 2 days, 48 hours. Does this also conflict, or how do you reconcile with you trying to build relationships with the immigrant community?
Well, we're doing a great job building the relationships no matter what they're doing, because we've always built a great relationship and had many conversations with the Latino community during the crisis, after the crisis, and even as of today. So we're still going to build that bridge, and we're confident that we're going to keep, our relationship with them. But when you have what we call the word salad, and that's my new word, the word salad, that you mix the words up and make people believe that you can't do this or the sheriff is not doing that. For instance, they're saying, well, with the person with the new light rail stabbing, we don't know if the sheriff is going to hold him. Well, that's incorrect, because House Bill 318 mandates me to hold that person, to also include North Carolina General Statute 162.62, which mandates every sheriff in North Carolina to cooperate with ICE. So when we have these word games, it confuses the public, and that brings a lot of anxiety and mistrust also in the community.
All right, so let's clear it up. You actually say that you are obeying everything that you need to, mandated by ICE and the federal government, right?
Absolutely. I can tell you this. You will never hear a lawmaker or any lawmakers or ICE or DHS says this: Sheriff McFadden is not following the law. They will use the word cooperation because they want me to do something that is not is outside of the law. If a federal judge or a magistrate or a state judicial official has not signed a paper, then it is not legally my book. And then he could do this, he could do that, but what they use is the word cooperation. We're looking for the same cooperation that we never get. And so where's that? We don't talk about the cooperation that we're not getting. But we are following the law. You will never hear, the question should be this: is Sheriff McFadden following the law? And stick with that question. Is he following the law?
Iryna's Law, 1 week in. You said at yesterday's conference, lawmakers in Raleigh didn't communicate with your office before putting this law into place. That's a pretty significant oversight. What did you need to know in order for this to be implemented?
It's not much we need to know. We just want to have a seat at the table. Have a seat at the table, have your voice heard, and they may find something that they didn't think about. The same thing with the House bills. When House Bill 10 was created, it's not that I found a loophole, I found a misstep. And so then after that misstep, they created House Bill 318. The same thing with Iryna's Law. You're always saying is, please come and talk to us, get our opinion, get our facts. And you know, they will always use a good person, Mr. Eddie Caldwell, great guy, our executive director for North Carolina Sheriff Association. Have no problem with him. But the problem is, that is their fall guy. You know, they said, well, we talked to Eddie Caldwell. Well, I think that you need to talk to the sheriffs who are actually housing these people and who are in these counties. Surely, talk to Mr. Eddie Caldwell, have him at the table, but have your largest county sheriffs at the table also. Every major city, every major county in North Carolina should have been at that table, because these are the counties that are going to be mostly affected. Sure, they can say, well, we talked to the other counties, they don't have any problems. Well, if your housing is only 200 to 500, then you really don't have a problem. Mine is a 2,000 to 3,000 facility, and we have 1.2 million citizens. That is a significant change in some of these smaller counties. So sure, they may not have the problem. Well, ICE didn't go to their counties either and raid their counties. They came to Mecklenburg, Wake, and Durham.
When you turn someone over to ICE, do you know what happens to them? And do you see them back in the detention center?
We do not, and that is another problem that we are having currently. So as of the law stands now, House Bill 318, ICE can take custody of these individuals within the 48-hour period. Now think about this. They are taking people out of state custody with state charges pending. And so what happened to those state charges that are pending? Well, they can be dismissed by the district attorney's office, or this could happen also, which I have many cases to show. When they take this person out of our state custody with the 48-hour, after the 48-hour hold, under House Bill 318, they take them into custody and they probably will deport them. Well, did they talk to the district attorney's office? Did they talk to the judge? Did they come inside? No. And what happens is, when that person is called for court that day, that person is not present in court. What happens? The judge at that time issues an order for their arrest. So imagine, you inside a detention center on charges, say assault on a female. ICE comes and takes you, deports you, but never tell the judge or never tell the district attorney that they have deported this guy or removed this guy from detention. So then the judge at that time will then issue an order for his arrest. Now, if he's deported, 2 years later he decides to come back to the United States and is say he's caught in California, and he's coming through a traffic stop, and they said, well, you have a warrant outstanding for you in North Carolina. Then he will be taken into custody, being held, and then he will be extradited back to North Carolina. Who is paying for that? The citizens of that county. When he gets back to North Carolina, he's going to walk in and said, ICE deported me. How much of time is that going to take? How much of paperwork is that going to accomplish of him being in ICE custody? All of that is something that they did not think about when they were creating House Bill 318. And who pays for that again? The taxpayers of Mecklenburg County, because now he's back in our custody and we're going to have to keep him in custody till we resolve this issue. Those are the kind of things that we should talk about when we're creating House bills.
This is not a loophole, but something that obviously needs to be addressed.
But this
with
is
the
where they
paperwork.
use the word loophole. It is a step that they probably did not think about because they are not in the law enforcement arena.
So the suspect from Friday night's light rail stabbing, he was deported before.
Twice.
Came back. He is now in Mecklenburg County custody, and we are going to await his criminal case here, and then hand it over to the feds.
If they choose to.
If they choose to.
But here's what I would suggest to them, and I'm always going to suggest this to them. The civil process of immigration is not working. We can see that, and this is a prime example. We have deported this person twice. And who's paying for that? And now he's been inside our detention center for several days. How long is he going to stay there? What we're simply saying is, if you want this to work, allow this person to stand for his state charges, and after his state charges are finished with, concluded, he's adjudicated, then take him into custody with ICE. Simply taking him out of custody at this time with pending state charges is a problem. What we are asking, or what I should suggest ICE do, but I can't tell them what to do. We always say that I can't tell them what to do. There is a federal law that they could well utilize, but they often do not. And it's called 1326, U.S. Code 1326, which is re-entry after deportation. That is a federal criminal felony crime that they should be charging him with today. If they choose to, can't tell them what to do, but simply putting the detainer on them will hold him in our custody, and when that 48 hours prior to him being released, we will call them and say he can be taken into custody if you wish to. That is what we're asking, but it is up to them because we cannot tell them what to do. But we all know when something does go wrong on their side, they're always going to blame the sheriff's office.
If Iryna's law had gone into effect before last Friday, or if Iryna's law had been into effect before Iryna passed in August, would she still be alive today?
Would she?
Yes.
I don't know. I think that we are, and here's the sad part, we're over-exaggerating just one stabbing death, and we're over-exaggerating this stabbing on the light rail. Think about how many people were injured or stabbed that same day when the person was stabbed on the light rail. And not saying that Iryna, we could have prevented that, and we never would know if we could prevent that. But the young man who took her life was diagnosed bipolar and schizophrenia, okay? But 618 people inside the Mecklenburg County Detention Center had that same diagnosis. And so it's not unique, but it's unique because it was caught on film, it was nationally sensationalized, and we used the word refugee instead of immigration. So again, we changed the wording to fit the agenda.
Gotcha. So we talked briefly a little bit before you came into the studio about what's happening back to immigration and operations that are happening with Charlotte's Web over. ICE operations still happening. They were happening before Border Patrol came into town, right? And so this is now, it's on the national stage. You're talking to other agencies and local governments in different parts of the country. What are you talking about?
Well, we're talking because nobody's talking to law enforcement. So imagine Border Patrol is going into these cities having no conversation with local law enforcement. Border Patrol came to Charlotte and spent 4 or 5 days, never contacted the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. And why it was so ironic that all this was happening, because doing the interviews on CNN, That is 500 yards from my office. So we had no conversation. We haven't, the right hand of fellowship for law enforcement. We don't even know if these were Border Patrol agents. We just assumed that because we said that they're coming in and doing their work or whatever they're doing. And so myself and other agencies across the country now are having these conversations. What is happening? Why can't we be respected enough just to have a conversation? We cannot stop them from what they're doing because they are federal law enforcement officers, but we surely can have a conversation, collaboration, and 100% communication. And I'm always going to say that because this is all we're asking for. Have a conversation with us. We may can help you. We can tell you this is not the way it should happen, but at least have the respect to have the conversation. But everybody that I've talked to across this nation, Chicago and all the other cities, says they have not spoken to us, no communication. So how does that look? Law enforcement comes into a county or cities, terrorize your citizens, drag people out of the car, bust windows out, arrest your legal citizens, then unarrest them and leave them on the side of the road, and you have no conversation with them. That is what we're talking about, and we're going to continue to talk about it till someone hears us.
What does immigration enforcement ideally look like?
Well, it looks like it is unmanned at this time. It's a renegade system. And what we are saying is have a conversation. Now, I'm always going to divide this as I did previously. When I asked ICE, the regional director and the agents to come and have a conversation with me on October 1st, they did. They simply did. So for 6 years, I've been asking for the same thing: cooperation, collaboration, communication. So I sent a letter to ICE again on October 1st. On October 17th, they came to my office. I gave them guidelines. I gave them what they could do and they shouldn't do, or what they ought to do, or what they could do, and here are the guidelines: to make our cities safe, to make them work in a safe environment, and have people around the courthouse and around the government centers safe when they're taking care of an operation. So far, ICE has listened, ICE has been cooperative, and ICE have been in great communication with us. They did a small operation a couple of days ago to remove 4 people. Nobody knew about it. It was very well orchestrated, and it's a great operation. So all we're asking anyone to do, if you're going to operate here in the county of Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte, have a conversation with us. That's all we're asking.
Communication.
Communication.
All right, Sheriff McFadden, thank you for coming in. Anything else you want to talk about today? Because I'm going to have you in here again.
No, we should have these conversations because the conversations are great. Just having the conversation. Iryna law has passed. House Bill 318 has passed. So we're going to work with it. Mental health is going to be our issue that we're going to be focusing on for the next couple of years. And if we don't combat that, then we're going to definitely be in a bigger problem in our city.
Mecklenburg County Sheriff Garry McFadden joining us here live in the Live Impact Studio. Appreciate the conversation with you today.
Thank you so much.